Hello and welcome to today's video. In today's video I'm going to be discussing to what extent a purity spiral is productive. I'm mainly doing this video because I'm trying to sort this out in my own head as well, so I'm hoping that thinking out loud will develop the point more and hopefully cause other people to take part in the discussion. I'd be very interested to hear your opinions in the comments, but I'll move on to what I'm saying. When would a purity spiral be productive? A purity spiral is often seen as unproductive. However, in certain circumstances, a purity spiral is very effective. If anyone needs proof of this, I would recommend reading Lenin. Just everything Lenin ever wrote, or just take anything from Lenin at random, and you will see the political utility of a purity spiral. The main reason why a purity spiral is productive is it stops infighting between members of an organisation and focuses all the organisation or group's effort towards the political enemy. And lots of people who don't really understand how politics work say that a purity spiral is a bad thing because you should always be working to cooperate with each other. But that isn't really how politics works. Politics is very adversarial. Politics is about inserting and using power over people who you don't like. You want to force your values on someone else. That is what politics is. As I previously said, a purity spiral can achieve things, most famously the Russian Revolution. The reason Lenin got to power and the reason the Bolsheviks got to power and the Mensheviks didn't is because, due to the purity spiral, the Bolsheviks were able to be more organised than the Mensheviks. So, in terms of running an organisation, a purity spiral does seem to be very effective. Right, here is where I see a purity spiral being quite weak. The personal. What I mean by the personal purity spiral is I see a lot of purity spirals, especially with the Christian right, on personal matters. So it is an ideal across most people in the right wing that sex before marriage should be prohibited or should not happen at all, whether or not there's a legal basis for that. But the problem I see is lots of people who are effective political actors don't normally conform to that ideal. They don't normally conform to anybody's idea of a good Christian. And I think Machiavelli brings this up in The Prince. The good Christian king is dead on the floor because the Machiavellian one would have killed him, or his advisors would have. And I think this applies to politics as well. Purity spiralling on the private ethics or the ethics of people within the movement is probably a bad idea. This is not to say that the public face of a movement or an organisation shouldn't conform to the values. However, people within that organisation, who are strategists and other useful people, it doesn't really make sense to purity spiral on their personal lives. Obviously, if you've got someone who is not conforming to an organisation's ideal, that should be done as privately as possible. It shouldn't be public that that person is, I don't know, very promiscuous. But if the person's politically useful, I don't really see the point in purity spiralling on personal matters. An organisational outlook. I mean, when I think of a purity spiral, I think there are certain issues that is worth purity spiralling on. I think most issues that it is worth purity spiralling on. For example, in the nationalist spheres, I think it's a perfectly good purity spiral on the issue of demographic replacement. I think that's a very good thing to purity spiral on. However, what I don't think it's a sensible thing to purity spiral on it is the how. For example, I've seen some people online say, I suppose it's the how and when really. I want to get rid of all foreigners in a year of taking power, and I don't think that's really practical. And purity spiraling on things that are that specific and things where practicality will come into it, I don't think it's productive, because you will have all purity spiraling does when it's unproductive or not productive to purity spiral on. I don't think it achieves anything because it's a practical question. Because if you're having people purity spiral on a practical question, then it's more likely that those people will be thinking in a way that isn't practical or achievable. Whereas if you have people within an organisation who are all as ideologically committed and all share the same ideological goal, the organisational movement will have a higher probability of success. Because if you've got people who have lots of different ideas as to how to get to a goal, the best one, to some extent, will hopefully win out, and that will be very productive. For example, in terms of abortion has been very interesting debate to watch in America, but in terms of people, or the abortion movement in America, or the anti-abortion movement, has been very effective because they purity spiraled on no abortion for no reason, no exceptions. Obviously you will have a rift in that organisation or disagreements as to how to get there, and provided an organisation can attract enough resources, an organisation can try lots of different methods of how to get to a given goal. So I think it's unhealthy to purity spiral on how and when, but I do think it is important to purity spiral on what. I've mostly discussed some of the issues around purity spirals, and what I'm really hoping this video will do is it will hopefully encourage a discussion on when is a purity spiral productive and when does a purity spiral stop being productive. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to improve your public speaking skills, please check out my link to my locals channel, and if you want videos on legal and political strategy, please check out, or not videos, articles even, please check out my Substack. Thank you very much for watching, and good night.